Okay, and next up, let's add some more interactivity to our chart. What we can do is add an empty paragraph element right before our chart, or actually not right before, but let's add a paragraph element here below our chart. So like this. Let's just leave it empty, but we have to give it an ID. So let's just go with description. So now we have an element. We can't really see it because it's empty. But now we can work with doing something with this element as we interact. So what I'm thinking is that if we click on an element, we can get a summary of that point. Or yeah, if we click on a point rather, we can get a summary of the information about that point in this paragraph that will be below the chart. So where do we start? First, we want to put this element in a variable here. So we can use the get element by ID in JavaScript there. So let's just say description element, and then document dot get element by ID. And then we have description. So now we will have access to this description element. Okay, so something is not right there. Get element. Okay, I see we are missing some letters here. Get element by ID. Description. Okay, and we're back on track. Okay, and now we go to our plot options yet again. And inside the plot options, we can put some events. So let's do that. And that will be inside of this column option. So we will do events. And the event that we want to listen to here is the click event. And then we have our callback function. And first off, let's actually just take a look at this event that is passed to this function. So we do console log E, and then we can just inspect this to see what's available here. So let's do that. We'll go show the console here. And then we can click on whatever element, and we can see here that we have a pointer element or pointer event. And now we can look at what's available here. We have this point object, which will be very useful for us because this is actually where we will have access to a lot of information about the point. So let's go in here and see what we have. Okay, so we have this key. This represents Joan, so the name of the participant, so that can be useful. And we also actually have access to the entire series. Now, this can be useful because then we can also have access to the name. So let's see if we can find that here. So name, date 3. Okay, that's good. And what else do we have? Well, there's a lot here actually, but we have the Y value, so the actual number of fish caught for that day. And then we also have this stack total. And this was the same as we already used in our format string before. So I think with the values that we've just talked about, we can add some appropriate description for the data point. So let's go back, close this, and we can get rid of this now. And let's just first find the point. So this was e.point. We can set that first. And then we have the name, which was the key, so point.key. And then we had the day, which was on the series, so point.series.name. And then we had the fish amount, which was point.y. And then finally the fish total, which was point.stack total. And now let's try to set the inner text of our description element to something that includes all of these data points here. First, we can just go description element dot inner text equals, and let's just go with these template literals here to begin with, because we're going to use those, but we can start with Joan caught 3 or 2 fish on day 1 and 7 fish in total. So let's just test first to see if this works. Okay, nice. So now we have this text showing here. And now we can use our values to replace the different parts of this string. So let's do that. So for Joan, we want to replace that with the name. So that was point.p. And we also want to replace this number. Now we just want to use the value. So this was fish amount. Fish amount. And obviously we don't need point.key, we need to just use the name. And then for this one, we have day 1, so that was the series name. So that was day. This number was the total, and that was the fish total. Okay, now we can try again and see what happens. So let's start here. We click. Joan caught 2 fish on day 1 and 7 fish in total. Let's try another point. Charlie on day 2. Charlie caught 3 fish on day 2 and 7 fish in total.